Who are the scammers that just can't stop themselves from scamming people? Let's get right into it and start with number 4, Malachi Love-Robinson. Florida teen Malachi Love-Robinson pretended to be a doctor using fake licenses and certifications. Again. But despite having a medical office and wearing lab coats and a stethoscope, the thing Love-Robinson lacked was a medical degree, which is apparently useful when treating sick people. He also led his patients to believe he was 25 years old rather than 18-something, an age most teenagers try to illegally buy alcohol, not illegally give medical checkups. Officials grew suspicious of the young-looking doctor, and because child medical professionals are only accepted on TV, an agent went undercover pretending to be a patient. The undercover agent came in complaining of an itchy throat. Love-Robinson conducted a physical, taking her weight, checking her temperature and breathing, and recommended she pick up allergy medicine at a local pharmacy. Although he never wrote her any scripts for prescription medicine, he did give her medical advice without being licensed or educated, which is a third-degree felony in Florida. This wasn't the first time Love-Robinson dealt with law enforcement. He was determined to practice medicine despite being completely unqualified. Love-Robinson opened his medical office called New Birth New Life Medical Center and Urgent Care and held a grand opening celebration in January 2016. The location was surrounded by doctors and dentist offices, making it look legitimate. A member of the public tipped off the Florida Department of Health, notifying them that an 18-year-old was posing as a 25-year-old doctor. Love-Robinson claimed he got his PhD in a different field from a private Christian university, but wouldn't name his field of study or the university. He received a certificate from the American Association of Drugless Practitioners, a group of holistic health professionals like herbalists who are likely about as effective as using thoughts and prayers to treat ailments. The organization only approved Love-Robinson's application after he sent them copies of his degrees and diplomas. After all, they're a serious organization, and the credential doesn't allow people to diagnose or treat medical conditions. Love-Robinson was arrested several times for practicing medicine without a license. In January 2015, he walked the halls of St. Mary's Medical Center in Palm Beach dressed in his white coat and stethoscope. Police took him into custody as a minor at the time. Then, in October 2015, he allegedly spent 3 weeks practicing medicine without a license at a treatment facility specializing in addiction recovery. Love-Robinson's mother believed her son had a mental illness that he refused to get treated because as a 17-year-old, she thought that was somehow his responsibility. The Florida Department of Health filed a cease and desist notice in October 2015, accusing him of practicing medicine without a license. Practicing medicine without a license was not his only crime. While conducting house calls, because he made house calls too, Love-Robinson stole $30,000 from one of his patients when he used her checking account information to pay his car payment. He also tried to buy a Jaguar using a stolen credit card in Virginia. Love-Robinson pleaded guilty to charges against him over the incident with buying the car and received a 5-year prison sentence, although 4 of those years were suspended. After his release in Virginia, he pleaded guilty as part of a plea deal for earlier charges from Florida. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison with credit for the 16 months he'd already served. Love-Robinson retired from practicing medicine, and by the time he was 23 years old, he was working for a shipping broker. While there, he stole over $10,000 from his employer by rerouting payments from the company's business account to his personal accounts. In a text exchange with his former employer, Love-Robinson said he didn't want to go to jail, as opposed to all the people who do want to go to jail, and would do whatever he could to make it right. He claimed he refunded the money, but his employer never received any of it. Love-Robinson's employer contacted the police, who arrested him for grand theft and an organized scheme to defraud. In January 2023, Love-Robinson returned to jail to begin his 2-year and 4-month sentence. Malachi Love-Robinson's got a fever, and the only prescription is more jail time. Number 3, Antonio Brown. Aspiring rapper and embattled former All-Pro wide receiver Antonio Brown attempted to defraud a Florida music promoter of over $500,000. A bombshell lawsuit against Brown accused him of breach of contract and defamation over an exclusive agreement he signed in July with Secure the Bag Entertainment, also known as STB. Brown allegedly stole $178,000 from the company when he submitted fake expenses for reimbursement and sold Ryan Kane, the owner of STB, a counterfeit high-end watch for $160,000. Kane recruited Brown after becoming friends with the aspiring rapper. He gave Brown a $150,000 advance to sign with STB. One of their first projects would be shooting a video to promote Cracked, a song Brown previously cut with Lil Wayne. Brown told Kane that Lil Wayne wanted to be paid $250,000 in cash and needed to receive the money from Brown directly because that was totally not suspicious. However, Kane was suspicious, but still wrote Brown the $250,000 check. But he couldn't ignore how weird the demand was and told Brown he was stopping the payment. Reps for Lil Wayne confirmed he never asked Brown to give him money, and that Lil Wayne only expected $150,000. The suit alleged Brown intended to keep the remaining $100,000 for himself. And that wasn't the only time Antonio Brown tried to rip off STB. STB had also agreed to pay for Brown to fly on a private jet and pick up some of his business expenses, but they didn't agree to reimburse $178,000. Brown handed STB a huge invoice that included $87,000 spent to rent a Los Angeles recording studio for 5 hours and more than $8,500 on Brown's entourage flying in the private jet with him. When STB refused to pay the invoice, Brown made a series of defamatory statements against the company on social media claiming they didn't pay their bills and wrote bad checks. Brown then refused to appear at a sneaker expo in Chicago that STB arranged. The expo's promoter informed Brown that the expo had already paid STB a deposit for Brown's appearance, to which Brown, again maturely, turned to social media, again to whine about STB even more. So Brown and Kane's relationship became rocky. Brown probably told Kane he wasn't going to be invited to Brown's birthday party at the roller rink anymore, but all of his friends would be. In the lawsuit, Kane accused Brown of selling him a fake Richard Mille watch for $160,000. After Kane had the watch evaluated by an appraiser who confirmed it was a counterfeit, Kane texted Brown and demanded his money back, and Brown responded by blocking Kane's number. Despite his exclusivity agreement with STB, Brown posted on social media that the contract didn't stop him from recording music outside the STB network, something Kane contested. According to Kane, STB owns the rights to all of Brown's music, and he can't release any new songs for the rest of his life without Kane's approval. Number 2. Michael Nelson. Michael Nelson, a felon that prosecutors accused of being a serial fraudster, opened a Florida accounting and legal services firm that a national consumer referral website had to remove quickly. The Jacksonville company was placed on Thumbtack as part of its online directory, allowing users to browse and rate service providers. Being included on the referral site suggested that Nelson passed a background check, which would seem highly unlikely when he had spent over 17 of the past 25 years in federal prison. Nelson was serving time for convictions in 3 states for crimes including computer fraud and wire fraud and identity theft. Nelson claimed he had moved on from his criminal past and was looking to the future. He stated he wouldn't commit any more cons or rip people off, so obviously he should be believed. No customers have come forward yet with complaints about the new company, but some statements on the company's website were less than truthful. Nelson's biography claimed he had more than 30 years of experience in complex mediation and executive management. It also stated he earned a master's certificate in psychology and social work in 2009 from Stratford Career Institute. Nelson couldn't have been in school and getting hands-on experience in the field, as he was in prison for most of the time listed in his biography. So maybe there was some complex mediation going on. Nelson's business site changed its offerings to facilitate sales negotiations, brand management, and mediation, announcing they were planning to consolidate their focus areas. In 1997, Nelson created a company called Global Project Management Services. He worked under the alias Larry Powell and convinced other business owners to lease or even buy office equipment from the company, even though it didn't provide actual goods or services. Nelson fooled his victims into thinking the company had a strong credit history by creating a fake bank. Federal investigators uncovered his scheme and authorities arrested him. He pleaded guilty to his charges of bank fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and money laundering. The judge handling the case sentenced him to 5 years in prison and ordered him to pay $723,000 in restitution. Nelson was reaching the end of his sentence in 2003 and was living in a federal halfway house. He would leave during the day to run a law office where he allegedly collected fees to provide legal services to federal inmates. The law firm was fake and and when U.S. Marshals learned of his actions, they arrested him at his Maitland office and took him back into custody at a maximum security facility. When Nelson left prison, he moved to Chicago, where he posed as a consultant named Anthony Zamora and used the alias to defraud 3 churches and 2 banks out of $724,000. He was arrested and charged with bank and mail fraud. While awaiting trial in 2006, he moved to Los Angeles, where he created another fake law firm, this time called Nelson & Associates, which also had a satellite office in Atlanta. Nelson allegedly hacked into the California bar's website and stole the identity of attorney Michael S. Nelson. He altered the lawyer's contact information and collected over $103,000 in legal fees from clients while pretending to be actual attorney Michael Nelson. A Chicago jury found him guilty of bank and mail fraud, and the judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. Nelson was still in federal prison for the Chicago fraud convictions when he pleaded guilty to computer fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft in the California case. A California federal judge sentenced him to a minimum of 3 more years in federal custody, after which he would be placed on supervised probation for 3 years. At least supervised probation would stop him from offending, right? By 2017, Nelson was serving his probation in Orlando when he posted a series of YouTube videos claiming to be the pastor of an online church that catered to the LGBTQ community. In his videos, he solicited charitable donations, which he claimed were tax deductible. Running the online church wasn't Nelson's only business endeavor. He also began operating another law office, although his clients claim they paid him for work he failed to complete. His actions violated his probation, and the judge sent him back to prison, claiming Nelson's fraudulent activity made him a danger to society. He served an extra 30 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of probation. Nelson's supervised probation ended in 2022, and he turned his attention to senior restaurant management. Social media posts also linked him to a fitness company called Extreme Wellness Step, which listed him as the company's CEO and a certified personal trainer. In July 2022, Extreme Wellness Step relocated from Orlando to Jacksonville. Around that time, Nelson established another company offering legal services. But he's gone straight now, right? Right? Number 1. Conrad Bicker. Conrad Bicker referred to himself as the Wolf of Airbnb while making a fortune running an illegal Airbnb operation in Manhattan. Bicker illegally subletted over a dozen Manhattan apartments and posted them on sites such as Airbnb. Despite making money on the units, Bicker didn't pay rent on any of the properties he controlled. He claimed COVID rent hardship and exploited the eviction moratorium, aware that eviction bans and court backlogs would make it easy for him to keep making profits on the units while frustrated landlords waited. Bicker flaunted his self-proclaimed title as the Wolf of Airbnb and said the name came from comparing a person's hunger and ruthless determination to climb the financial ladder was like the ferocity of the wolf, an animal that's territorial and merciless when provoked. This guy sounds like a real sweetheart. Bicker's social media account showed him as an influencer who enjoyed private jets and exotic vacations. But while enjoying the finer things in life, he owed hundreds of thousands of dollars in rent. He made at least 5 hardship declarations claiming he couldn't pay rent due to the pandemic. Bicker started renting the apartments in early 2020 but never paid a penny. When his leases expired, he refused to leave the units. Most apartments were in Upper Manhattan, with a few in Hell's Kitchen and West Side. Despite having multiple addresses, Bicker's permanent residence was unknown, which worked to his benefit. Bicker and his lawyer had 2 lawsuits thrown out because nobody could track him down to serve him with the paperwork, which seems like a terrible loophole. In 2016, New York banned advertising short-term rentals without the owner or a regular tenant present. It has been a difficult law to enforce, but the mayor's office of special enforcement has gone after owners and property managers of suspected illegal hotels. Federal prosecutors indicted Bicker in October 2022 for his scheme of illegally subletting Manhattan apartments and refusing to pay rent. Although he claimed he couldn't pay rent, he fraudulently obtained over $565,000 in COVID-19 relief funds. He allegedly leased 18 properties beginning in February 2019. Bicker failed to pay over $1 million between 2019 and April 2020, even though he made at least $1.1 million in income on the properties. He probably could have kept it going if he just paid the $1 million and kept the rest. One of the units he illegally sublet was located in a luxurious building at 450 250 West 42nd Street. The doorman noticed people coming in and out with suitcases and cameras equipment, as he'd also advertised the apartment for $97 an hour on PureSpace. After being served with a cease and desist, Bicker demanded to be paid to leave. If not, he threatened to stay in the unit for years and litigate. Bicker faces 2 counts of federal wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, which could land him 42 years in prison if convicted. He could be the Wolf of Cell Block 8. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments below who you think is more trustworthy in a business deal, Antonio Brown or Kyrie Irving.